What's up? Alan Wilson here. Wanted to do a video. It's gonna be a little bit different format than normal. I just, sometimes I just sort of go with the flow and say what comes out and as intuitive as possible. And sometimes we get into heavier topics and we really have to write some notes and meditate on them. And the topic is something I've struggled with for years, and I finally feel like the past year or two I've really gained some clarity. And that is, what would it look like if you were wrong? The importance of letting go the need to be right. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said, humility, one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. One should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. That's how he described humility. For God resisted the proud and giveth grace to the humble. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. That's 1 Peter 5:5-6. For God resists the proud and giveth the grace to the humble. Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. I did a video a couple weeks about making amends and gaining your power back. And it's a great video. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. I didn't think of it. I learned the hard way. Years and years of resentment and guilt and shame and remorse, and trapped in the prison of my own making. Psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and it even manifested into my physical world. Within and without. I have spent many years studying the cosmic orbit on a universal plane. I have spent many years studying other people's cosmic orbit. I have spent many years studying my microcosmic orbit, which is that outside of my own self, and I have spent some time studying the intercosmic orbit. And when I look back at some of the most chaotic times of my life, I was always studying someone else's microcosmic orbit. I felt that I knew a few things and I could help them, or I could prove them right, or if I couldn't prove them right, then I could prove them wrong. And did that. I was stuck in that mode for about a year and a half at least, along my spiritual journey. It wasn't that my ambitions and motives were wrong, because I didn't know I was doing it. And that's why I asked the question, what would it look like if you were wrong? That's something that you have to ask yourself. Because I couldn't see it. And looking at it now, since I've done a lot of work on myself, it looks very chaotic. It looks like there's a lot of blockage emotionally, psychologically, mentally, spiritually. It looks like a form of control. It looks like change being a threat to sort of my own ecosystem, my own thought patterns, and how things could be. If they thought this, or if they'd done this, then my life would be easier and I could breathe, then I could meditate and I could shop and I could travel and I could do this and I could do that, and life would be grand. And I was stuck. I had a few instances this past week to where those sort of things, now that I identify them, certain people are trapped in those situations. And I see myself, there goes I. And I know that it's a double weakness, so I have to show double the compassion. And I have to tend to the matter with extra grace, extra mercy, and extra forgiveness. And sort of, not fall back into the trap or the old way of thinking. I want to talk a little bit about humility, because I feel like in today's society, people see humility as being a doormat or getting walked on. And that's more of self-pity, when you allow people to do those things to you. Like in 1 Peter, humble yourself therefore under the mighty hand of God. To not be right and in order to be happy. Allow them to be right in order to keep your happiness and peace, and have faith and see the bigger picture. And from the mighty hand of God, or through the anxiousness that Swami talked about. And you'll start to see it from a spiritual point of view on, where they may need help. Is it compassion? Is it love? Is it grace? Is it mercy? Is it forgiveness? Is it prayer? Is it connection through meditation? Is it connecting our hearts on an energetic level? Is it service work? Is it nothing? And then doing those things for someone else as sort of a living amends, and put it out there to the universe and hope it comes back in full circle to them. Because it doesn't necessarily have to come through you to them. You can still help heal them in a roundabout way. You should look up Enzo and do some studying on that. The final answer gives us a voice to identify, and we think it gives us value. And there's like a ... after that sentence. And the word that pops up for me after something, a statement like that, or the psychology of that sentence, is inadequacy. We think it gives us value. And hidden under the guise of all of that is shame, is inadequacy, feeling less than or not good enough. Fear of getting what we think we deserve. Those sort of ideas sort of being the vehicle in order for us to want to be right. It's a form of control that's an illusion, and it's chaotic, you know. We think it's not okay to be wrong because we have to keep fueling that vehicle. And not everyone in society is running around saying you're allowed to have a bad day. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. They're not reinforcing that idea in most circumstances, that we move around in every day. And we project, they project, we get caught up in this big vicious cycle. And hopefully one of us wakes up eventually and starts making an amends, and starts, anytime there's a spiritual shift or a spiritual change or a raise of consciousness, or we get closer to God, or we study holy scripture or teachings like the Bhagavad Gita or the Holy Bible, we must start looking at the past in a sense, to start to right our wrongs, whichever way that seems fit, without causing more harm. And that's when you start getting into sort of the collapsing of timelines, and sort of healing the generational karma or trauma, things like that. You start to heal those things for the future, and you start to change your timelines. If we don't, we stay stuck there spiritually, psychologically, consciously, emotionally, and even physically. Because we're scared to break through the fear and expand. If we can start to identify the fear as us accepting a limitation, rather than fearing the fear of the unknown, past that idea, past that level of consciousness, past that blockage, past that anger, and we start to open up our heart space and expand our mind almost immediately. Almost immediately. It mirrors our insecurities and our narcissistic behavior patterns that we project on others. If we can't identify the fear, if we haven't done the spiritual work that we need to do, we can't identify the fear, so we stay stuck in our insecurities and our narcissistic behavior patterns. We got to be right. We can't walk away in peace, in faith, knowing that everything's going to be okay, that the universe is going to keep moving, that the world's going to keep turning, and that we're going to wake up tomorrow and live another day. We'll find ourselves repeating the pattern the next day if we can't break through the blockage and look at things from more of a spiritual eye, third eye. There's certain things that happen to people, whether it's a Kundalini awakening or being, born again. It's the same deal. Like, it's the same exact thing. It's an energy exchange from the God within us, or our higher self, or whatever you want to call it. Put whatever name you want to put on it. If you know, you know. If it's happened, it's happened. The real trials will come even after it's happening. And this is where a lot of people who think, that have had experiences or think they've been awakened spiritually is that it's a double weakness. So you have to identify and ask yourself, what would it look like if I was wrong? Even if you knew or thought you knew that you were right. How would you act? What would your defects of character look like? How would we know if we were wrong if we built up a strong defense system? Typically, prior to the awakening, based off of some sort of trauma or upbringing or things we had done or experienced, people, places, things, that type of idea. Or it could be even generational or past life trauma. But you won't know those things until you start practicing, like the amends video that I did, or taking a look at this stuff and start to identify the fear as a practice, fear is a limitation. So it's sort of, moving forward. With these strong defense systems, we build the walls that imprison us, and we build them strong, and it takes more than ourselves to tear them down. We have to add to our life through service, through unity, through spirituality, through community, through practices like yoga or with a teacher that can sort of guide you through some of these holy teachings, and show you. We need someone to hold us accountable, someone that we can go to and say, I don't know. Like, you don't have to go tell the world, but you can tell one person. And we tend to think that these are people with letters after their name, or if, they sort of got to be someone that sticks out in our lives. And a lot of the best teachers are just people in your circle, close people around you, that we have sort of this hierarchy of where we draw in from. We make it a certain level, so we want to mentally we only want to listen to people above, that we think are above us. Children are our greatest teachers, but the average person in a state of humbleness, they're out there everywhere. And you'll find that they can change your life, help you change your life, show you how they changed their life, more importantly. That's really what a good teacher would do. Based off of this experience, this is what happened. Can I show you what I did? Or can I show you how it's playing a role in your situation? Those type of things to help the other person grow or awaken themselves and get through the egoic mind and start opening the heart. I'm also almost a special case, like I do things for so long and then they only get me so far because they're just vehicles. Whether it's a spiritual teaching, I'm always having to add to, and always having to add to. Whether it's, studying Holy Scripture in the Bible and opening my heart to Jesus, to picking up yoga and going into it with an intention of growing in a Christ-conscious manner, to studying the Bhagavad Gita and allowing other people to teach me some of these things. And I always had to add to. I'm constantly tearing my own box apart. That's the deal. Is we become someone, so we have to become no one again, over and over. The egoic mind and the opening of the heart. We only tend to admit fault when others admit fault. It takes knowing yourself and a lot of courage to be the one to start to admit fault. You almost have to practice admitting fault to get to a level of where you don't have to be right. I had to go back and make amends still to this day, over and over, no matter how small I think they are, in order to start to spot the danger ahead, so to speak. Humble myself under the mighty hand of God. And I'm not saying perfection, I'm saying progress. This teaching is about progress, not perfection. Of course, we're going to be affected because when we get out and interact with other people, our energies are intertwining with other people's energies. Our cosmic orbits are interfering with other people's, and that's just another word for world, but it's to show you that there's more there. If we just say our world, then that tends to slide past. There is a world there, but there's a whole cosmos there as well. It does take knowing yourself and a lot of courage to go back and start making amends. But they get easier and easier and easier. And if you don't know how the amends process works, I have a video on it as well. And it was taught to me, and it changed my life. And it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something worth doing for your own self and for your own spiritual maintenance, for your own psychological maintenance, for your own mental health, for your own emotional self-care, to really manage your emotions and truly get to know yourself. And I hope it helped. If you want to, like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Idle Minds Collective, it'd be greatly appreciated, because I know that people are maybe relating to, getting through, sharing their testimony, whatever that looks like. And it is a donation-based gift economy channel. So anything that you donate, whether it's a couple bucks to buy a coffee, or what I do is anytime I get a donation in, I donate to other people who run donation-based gift economy businesses. I always make sure a certain percentage goes back out there into the world. It's the only way we're going to support each other. So just sort of know that, if it's a coffee, if it's a whatever you feel is on your heart, and if you can't do that financially, then donate your time to someone in need. Donate old clothes in your closet. Those things are taking up space energetically. We consume everything. And if we move something out of the corner of our home or out of our closet, things that we're not really using, that we're attached to, and we start to donate these things instead of throwing them away, creating more junk, we clear up space for new things. That's sort of the deal, is creating space, whether it's yoga, whether it's donation, donations, whether it's donating to someone like me or the Goodwill, it doesn't matter. It's creating space for new energy to come into your life. And it's this life cycle of abundance. And it might not seem like that at first, but once you start practicing it, it will start to ring true. There will be little things, I've heard people call them, I like to call them God shots, like these little moments of clarity, like, oh, it makes sense now. Because we start to see things from a different perspective. But I love you all, and I thank you all for tuning in and listening. Congratulations if you made it this far. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.